Thank you, Malaviga, for the introduction. I hope you guys are safe at your home and following all the COVID-19 protocols. As compared to say 2018 and 19, we are living a very different life now. No doubt on that. COVID did have a very bad impact on most of the industries like healthcare, education, construction, just to name a few. But every change has a good and a bad part. The good part is that this has also caused certain industries to grow. Take the case of robotics. We are seeing a significant boom in the industry, like healthcare. We started to see robots being deployed in hospitals to assist doctors and nurses to deliver medicines and sanitize the area safely. It's not just the robotics industry that COVID catalyzed, but also the e-commerce sector. Stats actually shows an increased usage of online marketplaces like Amazon and Flipkart. It isn't surprising, right? All of us now rely on Amazon for getting our essentials. Actually, there is one industry that the e-commerce platforms heavily relies on. That's the warehouse industry. As you have noticed, e-commerce has had a positive impact due to COVID. The number of orders from these platforms has increased, and this has an impact on the warehouse industry. Not all warehouses are designed to handle such large transactions. There are many factors affecting the working of the warehouse, like the growth of e-commerce, as we have just discussed, then customer satisfaction or the expectations of the customer. When we place an order on Amazon or Flipkart, we would expect that the order is delivered within 24 hours or just 48 hours. That's our expectation. To meet that, the warehouse has to struggle a bit. Then the dynamic global markets, environmental concerns, labor cost, lot of factors are affecting the working of a warehouse. So the simplest option that we could think of in increasing the daily output is to increase the number of people. But then the overall cost increases. People are trying to find ways and means to see how the efficiency of the system could be improved. Studies shows that 50% of the time consumed is for transporting packages. Imagine if we can improve the efficiency here. The impact on the overall cost can be cut down significantly. This is the area where robotics has a big role to play in. So let me introduce you to the concept of mobile robots. There are mainly two options to go with, AMR or AGVs. These are robots that can manage many of the tasks in warehouse, like transportation of the packages, sorting, and many more applications depending on the industry it's deployed in. These mobile robots could save a lot of time in package movement. So with respect to each other, AMR has an upper hand in the industry due to its scalability and cost. AMRs are intelligent that it can plan parts in the warehouse according to the surrounding situations, making them safer to deploy in industry. The dynamic nature of the robot makes it more scalable and cost effective, as it uses floor maps to navigate through the warehouse and obstacles. At the time of warehouse upgradation, we just have to update the floor map and the AMRs are ready to roll out in the new workspace. As of now, we have gone through the use cases of AMR in the warehouse industry. Now let's see few of the corner cases that have to be addressed, like navigation through a busy warehouse, then synchronization of the robot with external devices, then robot orientation, then obstacle avoidance, human safety. These are few of the major corner cases in warehouse. In this, we are going to primarily focus on the robot orientation. Why is the orientation of the robot in warehouse so critical? Let's see. See, here you could see an image of a robot dropping a package onto a slot on the floor. Now just imagine if the robot reaches the location, that's the point, and if it is oriented like say 90° off, then when it lifts the package and drops it, it will not fall into the slot or the intended slot, it will be lying around on the floor. Would that what we would need? No. Then imagine a case where a forklift is lifting a package. We know when a forklift lifts, it has to insert the fork into the slots provided on the package. Now, if the robot or the forklift is not aligned properly, then when it tries to lift the package, there are chances the package could topple and like a chain reaction, a lot of packages are gonna fall down. So these are not the scenarios that a normal warehouse would appreciate. So here we could see the orientation of the robot during picking and delivery is pretty crucial. Here you could see a typical warehouse scenario created using a gazebo simulator. We can see a lot of packages placed here and there, and also shelves. We could also see a robot placed at location A, which we would be using to demonstrate the use case on a warehouse floor. So let's move on with identifying the hardware that we are going to use. In this simulated world, we are going to use the hardware Pioneer P3DX. It's a mobile robot that consists of cameras, lidars, then IMU sensors, proximity sensors, and many more sensors according to the requirement and the situation where the robot is deployed. All of these are connected onto an embedded hardware which is capable of interfacing these sensors and also run the application on the background. We have a mobile base which would be carrying all these hardware on the warehouse floor. In the previous slides, we mentioned the use cases and corner cases with respect to AMR. Now let's see how we can make it simpler and faster for development. ROS, Robot Operating System. ROS is basically a firmware or a middleware that creates a pipeline for different processes to communicate with each other. Here, processes is called as nodes. Each node communicates using topics and messages. ROS is widely used in robotics due to its scalability and large developer group. As ROS is an open source platform, plenty of resources are available online for your reference. Now here you could see a simple ROS tree where you have a ROS master and also two nodes, publisher and subscriber. Here the ROS master initiates the communication between the two nodes, and they both communicate each other over ROS topic using ROS messages. This is a simple tree with which we could explain how a ROS works. Now let's see an overall demonstration of the process. Here we have set up this demonstration using the gazebo simulated world. The robot basically has two modes of operation, that is full autonomous navigation and also action server based operation. When the operator gives the destination B from which the robot has to pick up the package. Now here we could see A as the location of the robot as robot base, and also shelf bay, that is location B, from which the robot has to collect its package. For the first phase, the robot uses autonomous navigation stack, a stack which guides the robot to move from location A to B. Here you could see the robot is computing a path and following it for reaching from location A to B, the command given by the operator. The robot is able to compute an easiest and the shortest route by which the robot could reach location B. When the robot reaches location B, the robot gives a flag as the goal reached, after which the action client server kicks in. Here the action based server does a lane following method to move the robot from location B to B dash, orienting robot perfectly so that it is able to collect the package. After which the robot uses the same lane detection method to go from B dash to B. After which the robot uses the same navigation stack to go to the next location C, or it might be back to the robot's bay. Now let's go deeper into the two phases of the process, that is phase 1 autonomous navigation and phase 2 is the action server based process. In the first phase, as we have told, it is autonomous navigation. The goal is to move the robot from location A to location B using the navigation stack. So here we know the robot is at location A, which is the robot bay, and B the destination. B is basically a bit far from the exact location from which the robot has to pick the package. So the robot is using navigation to reach from A to B and not B dash. B to B dash is taken care by the action server, with which the orientation of the robot would be corrected. Before we move on with the navigation, we need to create a map of the floor. In the initial slides, I have told AMR's advantage is that AMR basically works with reference to a floor map. So we need to map the floor. AMR has an option called as map building, for which we have two methods, that is manual mapping and exploratory mapping. In manual mapping, what we basically do is, with the help of lidars or sensors, we will collect data and use algorithms to create a map out of it. In manual mapping, we will use teleoperate, or we will use teleoperation to move the robot manually over the warehouse floor and collect data. In exploratory mapping, we would just leave the robot free in the warehouse floor and it will map the floor of its own. And there are different algorithms used for both the methods. The few of the methods are the SLAM methods, that is simultaneous localization and mapping. These are the few of the methods that are widely used: Hector SLAM, Cartographer, then Gmapping, ORB SLAM. There are different SLAM algorithms according to the places. Like these are more valid when it is the mapping is indoor. When we have outdoor, we have different kind of algorithms to do the mapping possibilities. On to the right, you could see a matrix of comparison between different mapping algorithms along with different sources for the mapping. We could have Kinet, laser scanners, or a combination of laser scanner and a Kinet 3D cam with respect to Gmapping, Hector, and CRSM. That's another SLAM algorithm which is being used. And to the left, you could see a 3D map generated using depth cameras or 3D lidars, and all the different sensors are used to create the 3D map also. Now let's come back to ROS navigation stack. The navigation stack can be divided into four major blocks. The first one as a sensory block, second the move base, third the base controller, and fourth the map server. The first block, the sensory block, basically consists of lidar or 3D cam, which collects data from the surrounding into the move base node. The move base block is the block from which the path for the robot is computed. Inside the move base, we have basically two nodes, that is the local planar and global planar. The global planar is responsible for computing the path in a global space, that is the rough direction from moving from location A to B. And the local planar is responsible for computing path in a short distance. So imagine the robot comes across an obstacle. The local planar comes into play and computes an alternate path to avoid the obstacle with reference to the global path. So I think you are able to understand the global path is the one which is defined from moving from A to B, and local path is what defines the robot's path for the few meters in action. And these two planars together give the velocity commands to the robot to move, and that is being received by the base controller node. Apart from this, we have another node as a block as a map server. We just created a map in the previous stage, and the map server will publish this map for the planars to compute a path in the global space as well as in the local space. So altogether, these four blocks together is what we call as a navigation stack in ROS. In detail explanation of each blocks is basically out of the scope for this small webinar series. Coming down to phase 2, the lane detection. Here, the robot uses vision sensor, that's a camera, to collect visual information from the warehouse floor. This vision information is fed to a processing node where the lanes are detected and the orientation of the robot is corrected. As a first step, the robot will be moving from location B to B' using action client server method. The client will give a goal to the action server. Here the goal is B'. The action server keeps the client updated with the help of feedback messages. When the process of movement from B to B' takes place, the action server keeps on updating the action client using a feedback messages. During this time, the robot would use image processing algorithms and PID algorithms to orient the robot perfectly in line with the red lane provided on the floor to orient the robot perfectly to collect the package. When the location B' is reached, the action server gives a feedback to the action client as a result that the goal has reached. The next step would be taking the robot back from B' to B, for which the same action server is used. Here, the goal would be to go to location B. The movement would be again updated using the feedback messages, and when the location B is reached, the result is published as location reached at B. Then the robot moves on with the journey to the destination, its next destination as provided by the operator. Now here the phase 1 and phase 2 is in combination allows the robot to move from location A to B and collect the package in the right orientation. Phase 1 gives the robot the location A to B, then phase 2 lane detection orients the robot perfectly to collect the package. With this, the robot has achieved its goal of collecting package from one location and delivering it to the next. Now let's see a few of the tools that would come in handy while developing with ROS. The first would be the RQT graph tool. Here the RQT graph is basically a dynamic window where you could see live nodes which is available now. These nodes will show where the messages are being passed or what all are the interconnections. These are very handy during the troubleshooting methods. Using the RQT graph, we will know which all nodes are active, which are inactive. Lot of information could be collected from this one particular graph, which makes the processing of troubleshooting much easier than we would expect. It's a very beautiful tool which would help us in that scenario. The next one would be the RVIS. Here we could see the map that has been generated. Now when you look closer, you could see red dots. These red dots are the laser data. Onto the left, you could see different parameters on like map, path, laser scan. All these are the data that has been published. We can say RVIS is a tool to visualize different sensor or different data. Here we could add laser scans or path that has been generated by the planners, as we have discussed when we were talking about navigation. Like that, this is a tool which is used to visualize sensor data or process data. We can be even we can use this RVIS tool to visualize the camera image that we have used to detect the lane. This is a very handy tool. The next one would be the Gazebo simulator. In the initial stage, you would have seen a demonstration video in which we used this particular world to create the video. The Gazebo simulator is a very powerful simulator which has a physics engine so that you can define gravity, inertia. Like any physical property that we have in the world could be simulated inside the Gazebo. Here, the basic concept is to create models, be it the robot, be it a shelf, be it a package, whatever be it is. You are going to create it as the same way that we have an object in our real world, so that that object will have all the properties identical to what we have on a real world. So the Gazebo simulator is one tool with which you are able to simulate algorithms or run lot of tests without any expenditure. Basically, when we need to test something, getting a proper robot or a proper scenario would be too expensive. That's a place where a Gazebo simulator comes into role, when we can use a Gazebo simulator to simulate any robot or any circumstances, and we can run our algorithms multiple times without the risk of injury or system failure, or without any risk. We are able to assess the algorithm that we have designed. Altogether with RVIS, Gazebo, we are able to simulate any scenarios of our choice. With the help of RQT graph, you are able to troubleshoot the ROS architecture. And there are different tools in ROS which would be taken care in the upcoming series, with which you will be able to develop a robot or prototype a robot very quick and fast. To summarize this session, we started with the warehouse scenario where an AMR improved its efficiency, then the hardware architecture of the robot that we used in the simulated world. A brief idea about ROS framework, after which we discussed autonomous navigation, in which we saw different mapping algorithms and the breakdown of the navigation stack. Then we looked at the action, server client usage and a few tools in ROS. I would like to thank all of you for joining me for part 1 of the webinar series.